Hello, everyone, and welcome to our workshop, Holding Virtual Office Hours. Online teaching often necessitates a virtual option for office hours since students in online courses can't always make it to a professor's physical office space. Students in face-to-face classes may face similar scheduling or proximity challenges, and since office hours are an important opportunity to make connections and support student success, holding virtual office hours should be an important option to provide to students, especially those in online courses. So in this workshop, we're going to discuss the options available for holding office hours online so that you can find one to suit your needs and to help you make meaningful connections with your students. So I'll be your presenter today. My name is Amanda Smothers, and I'm the Teaching and Learning Coordinator in the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning here at NIU. I'll be taking questions at the end of the presentation, but also throughout. So if you have any specific questions related to what we're covering during the presentation, feel free to post your individual questions in the chat thread. I'll address them as they come up and as they're relevant to what we're talking about when I can pause in the presentation. Office hours are an important component of any course. As we continue to transition to facilitating student learning online, we also need to adjust how we think about planning for and implementing our office hours. While in-person office hours may be ideal, online courses and obviously current pandemic circumstances may require moving those office hours to a virtual platform. So we'll discuss some of the benefits of virtual office hours, then we'll talk about some of the different types of office hours you might want to hold virtually, and then we'll talk about a few of the different platforms that we have available here at NIU for holding virtual office hours. And it's not an exhaustive list, but it is, a few of the main ones that we have access to here. The benefits of virtual office hours. First, students want to work harder for faculty that they feel connected to. By meeting with students in your virtual office, you can make a personal connection with your student in a one-on-one setting. That'll also help your students feel more connected to you and by extension to your course. And then in the same vein, you'll get to know your students better. They'll get to know you. It's common to feel disconnected in an online teaching and learning environment, both on our end and on students' end. So you'll feel more connected if you take that opportunity to put faces and voices to students' names and get to know them as individuals instead of just text on a screen or face in a grid in a synchronous class session. Another benefit to holding regular virtual office hours is that students can ask questions and receive answers more efficiently. Emails that go back and forth between you and students can take even more time often than having just a brief face-to-face conversation where you can address your students' questions, provide answers, and make sure that your student understands. You can also motivate students to succeed in your virtual office hours. So there tend to be two different types of students who seek out office hours, those who are high achievers and then those who are struggling. During those office hour visits, you can motivate your high achieving students to go even further, and then you can also guide your struggling students to improve and grow. So office hours are a valuable opportunity to provide students with individualized attention, feedback, and assistance. And finally, your virtual office hours can help you learn how the course is going. You might think the course is progressing well, but your students might have a different impression, or there might be hidden struggles that you're not aware of. So meeting with students during office hours could help you determine how the course is going and let you make those timely adjustments. With online courses, it's often more difficult to gauge how well the course is going because we don't really get those visual cues from students that we can perceive in a face-to-face classroom. And virtual office hours provide an alternative opportunity to assess the course. So let's talk about some of the types of office hours that you could hold in whichever virtual platform you choose. There are a few different methods for holding office hours online. They include synchronous drop-in sessions, synchronous scheduled appointments, a combination of the two synchronous options, and then an asynchronous option as well. Determining which type of office hours is right for you and your students will be an important first step to setting up that virtual office. Synchronous drop-in office hours involve you being present within the virtual office during a specific time period each week. Students have the option to drop in and get help from you during that time. The benefit to synchronous drop-in sessions is that there's a consistent schedule for any student to drop in and get help. It's similar to you having set up office hours every week for face-to-face meetings, but instead you would meet with students just in an online platform. If students have any last-minute questions, they can attend your synchronous office hours to ask for help, and they don't have to make an appointment ahead of time. One drawback for you is that there may be sessions in which no students show up and you're left waiting, just like you would in your physical office hours. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you could also have multiple students drop in at the same time, and you'll have to decide how to handle that influx while maintaining each student's privacy and giving them each one-on-one attention. So for example, you could use Blackboard Collaborate like we're using right now, and you could create a breakout room to meet individually with students while other students are in the main room waiting their turn. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. An alternative option is synchronous scheduled office hours. And with a synchronous scheduled office hours, students would schedule appointments to meet with you during your office hours. So you'd still have those set office hours, but instead of having students just drop in, they would meet with you. That option works similarly to the drop-in sessions in the sense that both allow you to meet with students in real time. But with this option, students have to plan ahead. They have to schedule time to meet with you instead of just dropping in. The benefit to scheduling appointments for virtual office hours is that you know who's coming to your office hours ahead of time, and you can ask them for information on what they need help with so that you can prepare for their appointment. Also, if you have no appointment scheduled, you don't need to wait around in the virtual office. You can also stipulate how far in advance students need to schedule their appointments. This will help you keep track of office hour appointments, ensure that you're ready to meet with students during their appointed time. The drawback to using only an appointment-based virtual office hours model is that students could have questions the day of your office hours, but without enough lead time to schedule an appointment, in which case they wouldn't be able to meet with you to get help. And that leads to our next option, which is a synchronous combination. To best serve students, you could employ a combination of synchronous drop-in and scheduled sessions. You could dedicate a certain block of office hours for appointments and then designate another block of time for drop-in appointments. So for example, if you're holding 3 consecutive office hours, the first 2 could be dedicated to appointments with the last hour reserved for drop-ins or vice versa, or whatever combination works for you. And this combination of synchronous drop-in and scheduled sessions would allow students the flexibility to ask questions as they arise instead of waiting for a future appointment. But it also allows students to schedule an appointment so that they can plan ahead and reserve a set amount of time to meet with you without interruptions from other students dropping into the virtual office or without other students waiting in the lobby for their turn. The last option I'll discuss is holding additional office hours asynchronously. So that would be a good supplemental option to the synchronous sessions I've discussed. This option offers the instructor the most flexibility while allowing students the freedom to pose questions as they arise instead of within a set time frame. So asynchronous office hours could be delivered through your online course or through another platform. For example, you could use a Blackboard Q&A discussion board where students could pose questions and then receive answers that the entire class can access. You could also post to the Q&A board with any frequently asked questions that you receive via email along with the answer, so you only have to provide the information once to the entire class. Outside of Blackboard, you could create a channel or a team in Microsoft Teams and have students post questions there. And I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. You could go even further and let students know when you'll be checking those asynchronous office hours forums. So for example, if you're going to check them every day at 8 and 4 so that they know, if it's between those hours or outside of those hours, when they can expect a response from you. The benefit to adding asynchronous office hours is that you can address frequently asked questions, which could cut down on the amount of emails that you receive with those repeat questions. And it also allows you and students some flexibility with when questions can be asked and answered, which could provide your students with some more timely assistance outside of those set office hours. Asynchronous office hours could also help the entire class enter into a dialogue on the topic and lighten your workload, outsourcing some of the responsibility for responses to the rest of the class. So for example, I offer a little bit of extra credit to the first student who answers their peer's question correctly, which encourages students to check the discussion forum more frequently. While asynchronous office hours are useful in their flexibility, they shouldn't necessarily replace at least some synchronous office hours. So as I've already mentioned, synchronous office hours help to create that connection between you and your student. Asynchronous options like the Q&A discussion forums don't create that same level of connection, but you could use a tool like VoiceThread or Kaltura to have students record audio or video questions and to record your responses for the asynchronous office hours forum, which could provide some more engagement and connection than strictly text-based communication. So let's talk about some tips for effective use of office hours. First, we want to establish an appropriate tone for our office hours. To establish that desired tone, consider how you want to come across to students in your online course. Students are more likely to attend your office hours if you seem approachable. So how can you make yourself seem approachable and willing to help? First, think about the tone of your communication within your course. What's the tone of your syllabus, your course announcements, your assignment prompts? For instance, is your syllabus a laundry list of restrictions and rules based on what you perceive previous students have done wrong? Are your policies discouraging or are they encouraging? Do you approach your instructions from a deficit mindset or from a growth mindset? So in other words, do you assume students are going to be deficient or do you encourage them to succeed and give them the benefit of the doubt? In addition, think about the way that you communicate with your students, both the class as a whole and individual students who reach out to you. Are you welcoming and encouraging, or do you seem detached or implacable? Do you present yourself as eager to help and answer students' questions? Or do you give the impression that students are inconveniencing you by asking questions or seeking assistance? And then finally, what kind of relationship do you want to have with your students? How can you design your communication to establish connections that'll motivate your students to seek out your office hours? Think about all the ways that you communicate with students in your course. How can you create a consistent tone throughout all of those course communications, from your welcome video or your welcome announcement to your course announcements to emails, assignment prompts, and even your technology instructions? So our goal is to help students learn, and in order for them to feel comfortable asking for help, we need to make sure that we present ourselves as approachable and willing to assist them. Otherwise, we can establish office hours and set them all up, but students are not going to show up. Another tip for creating effective office hours is to provide very clear instructions. And make instructions for locating the virtual office very clear by posting them prominently in the course. It's a good idea to post clear instructions in the welcome message, in the syllabus, and in course announcements so that students will be able to find those instructions when they need them. We also want to stipulate the days and times of our office hours clearly to students. And remember, students might not return to a Module 0 or your welcome message later in the semester, so it might help to post these instructions within each course module or to have a dedicated virtual office hours folder in your online course. You may also tell students about office hours early in the semester. We all go over the syllabus or expect them to read it at the beginning of the semester, but that doesn't mean that they're going to remember where, how, or when to access them when they actually need them later in the semester. So that's why posting clear instructions to multiple places that they're likely to see is important to ensuring students know how to take advantage of your virtual office. Along those same lines, we want to use repetition to ensure students attend office hours when they need assistance. So reiterate your office hour invitations regularly throughout the semester. For example, it could be within another related reminder, such as an announcement or an email reminding of an assignment due date, or you could send a separate dedicated reminder just about office hours. Within that reminder, make sure that you reiterate to students that you're available, explain again how they should connect with you during those office hours. If you have a deadline for scheduling office hours appointments, remind them of that as well. And also remind them of the process for drop-in office hours, such as how you'll handle multiple students wanting or waiting for their turn in your virtual office. Again, remember, students may not pay close attention to your initial mention of office hours because they might not need that help early in the semester. So just repeating those reminders throughout the semester, or you could even target invitations to struggling students, and that'll ensure that students know when your office hours are and how they can attend when they actually do need that help or have that question later on in the semester before that big assignment's due. Another tip is to expand on possible topics that could be discussed in your office hours. It doesn't have to just be related to problems or questions about the course content. You can open up your office hours to other topics to encourage those connections that you want to make with students. Are there any students who seem really interested in the course subject? Encourage them to attend your virtual office hours to discuss whether they should major or minor in your discipline. Are there students who are majors or minors in your discipline already? Encourage them to drop into the office hours to discuss ideas for careers in your field of study or to provide undergraduate or graduate research opportunities, which are really important. You could also have regular virtual cafe sessions to encourage students to attend office hours at a more informal level. So you can lead discussions on recent or notable discoveries in your field, so you can get students excited about what they're learning or help them understand how the subject is applied in the field. So in other words, office hours just don't have to be only about putting out fires. They can also be opportunities for engagement and enrichment. One tip for encouraging students to attend office hours is to require attendance. While it might be counterproductive to require students to attend office hours every single week, you might want to just consider requiring students to attend office hours at least once early in the semester. Students might be more likely to attend office hours when they actually need help if they've already navigated that virtual office, just like students who've already been to your physical office are more likely to attend your face-to-face office hours. Students will be less intimidated if they've already touched base with you once before. So have your students just make a quick 5 to 10-minute appointment or drop in during your office hours in the first few weeks of class so they feel comfortable making those appointments or dropping in and showing up to your virtual office later on when they're maybe a little bit more stressed and looking for help. If you have a very large class, a large lecture section, you could hold small group office hours early in the semester to accommodate that initial requirement. And you could also have your TAs hold their own virtual office hours so students know that they can go to them for help as well. Required attendance could help you break the ice with students too, and as I've mentioned before, it'll make them more likely to attend future office hours when they need that assistance because they'll be less intimidated by the process if they've already been through it at least once. So now that we've discussed some tips for making virtual office hours productive, encouraging students to show up, we can go over the different platforms that you could use to house your virtual office. We have a lot of options for platforms to hold virtual office hours at NIU. I'll go through a few options, but this isn't an exhaustive list of all of the options available. In addition to the recommendations for NIU-supported platforms, feel free to use any platform that you and your students are comfortable with. But keep in mind that you'll need to troubleshoot any issues with outside platforms with those platforms' technical support, while our IT department and the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning can help you navigate the NIU-supported tools. So one option for synchronous office hours is Blackboard Collaborate, which we all have experience with now because we're all in this session, and you may have been using it for your synchronous classes as well in the spring and in the summer. It's housed within our Blackboard Learning Management System. It's available for both Original View and Ultra View courses. Blackboard Collaborate provides you with a virtual office hours platform that students will be able to find within your online course. So that makes it very convenient. You can create a separate virtual office session and set it up to open up on a recurring basis during your office hours. Or you can just hold office hours within your default course room. But you'll want to make sure that it's open at the times when your office hours are open. So you might need to do some manual work with that, with settings, or you can just leave it open at all times. If you use Blackboard Collaborate for your virtual office, you'll want to familiarize yourself with the breakout rooms feature. All students can enter the virtual office, but you can preserve privacy for the student with whom you're meeting by adding just that student to a breakout room so you can meet one-on-one. When your meeting or appointment's done, then you can remove that student and you can add the next one in line. Another option for virtual office hours is using Microsoft Teams. which you may or may not know is also available as a tool within Blackboard, so which also makes it convenient for students connecting to it. You can create Teams meetings by visiting the Content Market and then clicking on the Microsoft Teams tool. And then you'd sign into your Microsoft account using your NIU email address and password, the same one that you sign into for Outlook or O365, and you would create a new meeting from there. Once you have created your new meeting and saved it, you'll be able to see the meeting link at the top of your course content area and in the course calendar for Ultra View courses. In Original View courses, the link will also be in the course calendar, but it'll appear in the first content area in your course menu on the left-hand side. Unfortunately, recurring appointments can't be set up using Teams for Blackboard. Like you can set, your Collaborate session to open and close at various times. But you could set up recurring meetings in your Outlook calendar or by editing the meeting details manually. You can also set the meeting to be open continuously, but then just hide the link in your content area and then make it visible manually during those office hours. So once your student clicks on the meeting link within the course, you'll be prompted to join the meeting using a variety of options, including downloading the app to your desktop, using the browser, or opening the Teams app if you've already installed it on your computer or on your smartphone, because the Teams app is also available on your smartphone. As you connect to the virtual office on Teams, you'll be able to set up your microphone and video or connect to audio using your phone. And once your settings are the way that you want them, you'll click Join Now to enter that Teams meeting, and it'll be the same view for you and your students. Another option is to create a team for your class on Microsoft Teams directly. There are several options for types of teams that you could create, and they've got a class option, which is perfect for setting up a class team. Once you've created your team, you can add your students to the team. It's connected to your NIU account, your O365 account, so you'll be able to search for your students there as long as they're registered students. Or you can give students access to the channel by just sharing the link to the team. You can start a team meeting within the channel by clicking on the video camera icon that's below the conversation area of the channel. And you can see that in this screenshot here all the way at the bottom. There are also tabs at the top of the channel to allow you to organize your team channel and to search for information easily. You can upload class materials here. You can all contribute to a class notebook. You can even hand out assignments in your team. So you can do a lot more than just virtual office hours here. But that is one way to hold your virtual office hours in Teams. Adobe Connect is another option for holding virtual office hours. To use that platform, you need to create your meeting within Adobe Connect, which you'll log into through NIU using your NIU login credentials. And I'll send you links to all of these resources as well, so that you can kind of play around with them afterwards. I'll send that in my follow-up email. Set up your meeting details, invite participants to join your meeting, and then you can update the start times for your meeting for new office hours, or you can just create a new meeting for each office hour instance. Unfortunately, you cannot set up recurring meetings as of when I explored it. Laura, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. One of the things that I was wondering about with the synchronous office hours is how I would let students know how long I'm going to be in a private session with another student. Because of course, in regular office hours, you can just put your head out the door and say, hey, I'm just going to be out 10 more minutes, and then they know whether or not they want to wait. So someone told me that one of the benefits with Teams is that there is a wait room function, and that you can actually talk to the students who are in the wait room, just like send them a message saying 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes or something like that, so that they know whether or not they want to wait. Is there something like you can do in Collaborate? I just would hate students to sit around if I know I'm going to be talking to a particular student privately for about 30 minutes.
Yeah, and within Collaborate, when you create the breakout room, I believe, and I'll double check on this and let you know, but I believe that you can go back to the main room as the moderator and post there within the chat. So I think you should be able to chat with your students and tell them, hey, we're going to be this amount of time. Everybody who's in the session through the chat function too.
Okay.
Does that help?
Great. Yeah, because it seems like using Collaborate would be the easiest thing since it's right there through the system. But I didn't know if there was a big advantage to using Teams because of the other thing. But it sounds like Collaborate might be a good way to go.
Yeah, I think they're pretty comparable. It's just kind of what platform do you like the best?
Mhm.
Some people really like Teams more, some people really like Collaborate. So, and the fact that they both integrate in Blackboard is useful. So I would say, whichever one you think is going to be easiest for you and your students to use, go with that. And I'll double check on that. And in my follow-up email,
No.
if there's anything different that I need to clarify about being able to communicate with people in the main room, then I will let you know too.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I appreciate it.
No problem. All right. So another option for synchronous sessions is the O365 whiteboard. There's no audio with this, but you could use this for synchronous office hours. And you and your student can communicate via the whiteboard collaboratively by drawing on the whiteboard. Um, you would invite students by email or by sharing a link to the whiteboard, and that's a good option for students who want to meet synchronously but don't have audio-video capability. Or you could also use the option in addition to connecting with students over the phone or using another audio sharing tool. You'd want to create a new whiteboard for each student appointment so students' privacy is maintained if you want to save the whiteboard content. Of course, you could always wipe the whiteboard between students as well. Um, so that's an option, and that would be more of probably an appointment based so that you don't have multiple students trying to communicate on the whiteboard there. A basic way to hold, and you could do this, it says asynchronous here, but you could do synchronous or asynchronous office hours via email. Synchronously, you would tell students when you're going to be in your email and allow them to communicate with you via email in real time. You could also use email for asynchronous office hours, let students know how often you'll be checking email, when to expect a response from you, so they don't keep emailing you when you don't respond immediately, because you know that happens. In the same way that you could use Outlook email for your virtual office hours, you could use Blackboard messages too. And all the images that I'm going to be using here are for UltraView courses. I know a lot of more people are experimenting with that. If you have any questions about where to find anything in an original view course, you can always email me after the session and I will be happy to point you in that direction. So keep in mind that with the messages feature, messages can only be sent from an open course. So if your course is hidden or if it's closed, you won't see the option to send a message to a student in that course. So you won't see that plus sign, that purple plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. Um, so for example, you wouldn't be able to send a welcome message to students before the semester begins if the course is hidden. You need to open it up, send the message, and then you could close it back up again or make it hidden again, I mean. Whereas within original view course, you can go into the course and you can send those announcement messages via email and stuff from within there without having to open the course. So that's one difference between Ultra and original view. But you can send your students a message by clicking the envelope icon in your course and then selecting the purple plus sign in the upper right corner to send that new message. And once you click on that, this is what you'll see, your new message. You can search for individual students under recipients to whom you'd want to send that message, or you can send a message to all course members. There isn't currently an option to send it to just students. So if you send it to all course members and you have, other instructors on there or course builders or TAs, it's going to go to everybody who's within that course. So just keep that in mind. If you only wanted to send it to students, then you'd probably need to check each student's name individually at this time. So you'll type your message in the box. You'll select your options. One is to allow or disallow students to reply to the message in Blackboard. If you allow them to reply to the messages in Blackboard, you'll see it right underneath your message in the messages center of the course. Make sure that you're checking back for responses as well. And you can also choose whether to send a copy of the message to students' email. They won't be able to reply to the emailed message directly, so they'll need to start a new message to you either in Outlook or from within Blackboard. And then you'll just select send when you're ready to post your message. You'll see all of your messages and replies in that area of the course once you've seen them or sent them. You can also send a message from the Blackboard base navigation outside of your courses by clicking on the Messages tab in the left-hand menu. You should see a list of all of your courses and organizations there. If you click on a course, you click on the course name, you'll actually open the course and you'll go to the messages section of that course directly. You can also click on the plus sign, and if you do that, you can create a message directly from this area of the Blackboard-based navigation without having to go into the course to create that message. If you don't see a plus sign, so you notice like some of mine don't have a plus sign here, that course is unavailable or it's closed, so you can't send a message from this area. You'll need to open the course and then send the message to the enrolled student after you've done that. If you click the plus sign, you'll see the same new message pop up that you would see when creating a new message from within the course. So same options, same view. It's just not within your course. Blackboard has additional tools that you can use for your asynchronous virtual office hour options. And one of those tools, as I've mentioned before, is the discussion board. You can create a class Q&A forum for students to post questions asynchronously and encourage students to answer each other's questions there. You'll want to closely monitor the forum, however, because you do need to still be responsive to students' communication. And also you want to make sure that you quickly dispel any misconceptions or misinformation shared by classmates. So if someone posts the wrong answer to a question, you definitely want to be on top of that. So it's not just a set it and forget it thing. In UltraView courses, the discussion board can be accessed from the discussion section of the course, which you get to by clicking the speech bubble icon in the upper right corner. You also have the option of adding the discussion to the course content area, either as a top level item, or you can put it within a folder or within a learning module as well. When you create your discussion board, you'll want to consider the settings carefully. Usually a Q&A discussion board would be ungraded because you're not really grading people's questions on course content. You wouldn't want students to have to post first before they can see classmates' posts either. That's a good option for, a discussion forum on a course concept so that students aren't tempted to, reiterate what each other has said and have to come up with their post first. But for this setting, they might miss important information. They might actually repeat the same questions their classmates have already posed, and they won't see their classmates' questions to be able to answer them if they haven't posted a question. So we definitely would recommend not making them post first and having the Q&A form be ungraded. Whether you want to use Teams, Collaborate, any other synchronous platform for your office hours, you have some options for managing your appointment schedule. One option is having students use the scheduling assistant in the Outlook calendar. So when you create an event, you can click the scheduling assistant tool, and that'll work if you keep your schedule updated in Outlook. And they also have theirs in Outlook too. Otherwise, students can just create the calendar event, add you as an invited attendee, and then you can determine whether to accept it or whether you need to propose a new time if you're not available. For Teams meetings, if you want to do your meetings in Teams, you can toggle the Teams meeting option right next to search for a room or location, which you can see I've highlighted here in the middle of the page when you create it. And then if you do that and you don't change in the details of the meeting, which makes things get a little bit wonky, you and your student will be able to just click on that link from within your calendar and it will launch your Teams meeting instead of the student having to call you from within Teams or you having to call the student from within Teams. So that method also ensures that your meeting is private and it won't be interrupted by another student entering the meeting. If you do use a scheduling assistant, this is what it'll look like. Your student would need to add you as a required attendee or vice versa, and then your name would appear below them and it would show your availability. Any unavailable times for each attendee will be blocked off so that you can choose a time that works for both of you. Another scheduling option that's a little fancier, and it takes just a little bit of work up front. I think it took me maybe like 15-20 minutes to set up my bookings page for this example. But it might be easier for students to use is bookings in O365, which is available to everyone at NIU. With this application, you create your booking. In this case, I've named mine virtual office hours, and I added a little logo image of some speech bubbles there. You would choose the settings that you want to apply to your bookings page, and then that would include access control, color theme, a scheduling policy. There's a lot of different settings. So you can kind of explore that and play around with that. Some more settings within the scheduling policy, you can choose time increments. So here I've set it to 15 minutes. You can stipulate a minimum lead time for booking appointments. In this example, it's 24 hours, as well as a maximum lead time. So in this case, I've set that to they can only schedule 14 days ahead of time max. You can also choose whether to receive email notifications, which I would recommend, because then when someone schedules a booking with you, you get an email announcement about that. You also need to set up your availability. These are your regular office hours. So which recurring days and times of the week are you opening up for your office hour appointments? Add them here. Make sure you factor in whether you'll have any open office hours so that you don't add those times to your bookings availability, because you're going to just let people drop into that. And the nice thing about bookings is that you can connect your Outlook calendar to the bookings calendar, and it won't let students book office hours appointments when you have events during that time, including other student appointments. So if a student schedules an office hour with you during bookings, it'll remove that availability from the available times that other students can schedule. From the services tab, you want to enter the services that you'll be offering. I have just one here, virtual office hours appointment for 15 minutes. You can add multiple services. So for example, if you want to have different time increments that students can choose from, like 15 minutes for quick questions, or 30 minutes, or an hour for more involved assistance, you can do that and add as many services as you want. There's a default service that'll be here when you first start. I believe it's called initial consultation, but you can either edit or just delete that once you've added at least one of your own services. And then you'll want to assign your staff so that it hooks up with your Outlook calendar in your schedule there. Once you save and publish your bookings, you can share the link with your students on Blackboard. Students will be able to go to the bookings page and book an office hours appointment with you. And if you want to give students the option for how they'd like to meet, so like in teams versus collaborate, then you can stipulate that in your services options by providing options for each. But if you just have one place where you want to hold all of your office hours, whether that's teams, collaborate, what have you, then you don't really need to stipulate that. You'll need to stipulate that in your instructions for virtual office hours, but when they're booking, you wouldn't necessarily have to do that. So after you publish your bookings page, you can preview what your students will see. This is my bookings page that I created. Students will see the dates that you're available in the calendar. When they click on the available date, they will see appointment times on the right side of the screen, so they can choose when they want to schedule their appointment. You'll receive an email notification when a student's booked appointment if you've checked that option, and it will be added to your Outlook calendar automatically. And again, feel free to use any platform that you and your students are comfortable with to hold your office hours. You know, if you want to use Zoom, if you want to use Google Meet, or you can use a different platform to schedule appointments like Candidly or Doodle. There are a lot of options, so just keep in mind which platform will be the most convenient for you and students. And remember that you're going to have to walk students through how to find and use your virtual office hours, and you'll have to troubleshoot any issues with technology for platforms that aren't supported by NIU. Also remember that you need to provide a secure environment in which to meet students so that their privacy is protected and FERPA regulations aren't violated. So you might need to take extra steps with privacy settings to secure your virtual office. We don't want any Zoom bombing during our office hours appointments when we're trying to help students. So that's the end of the workshop. If you have any more questions, please, you can post them to the chat thread, or you can raise your hand and share your audio if you want. If there's any questions in the chat thread, I'll read them out and answer them. If you can't think of any questions right now, then if you think of something afterwards, you can always respond to my follow-up email. Nahal says that you'll be teaching a big class of up to 140 students, which might work best for such classes. I would definitely recommend, if in that case, using something where you can have like a breakout room, such as Teams or Collaborate, so that you can pull students out, and definitely using something to work with scheduling so that you don't have a huge influx of students. You could also have different office hours for different chunks of students. So if you want to kind of break it up where you have, this day, these students can, attend office hours this day, these students can attend office hours. That might be also another way to manage that. Um, but I definitely think that having at least portions of them scheduled office hours appointments would be useful for that. No problem. Matt says not a question, but a plug for Microsoft Teams chat feature for synchronous office hours. He used that in the spring, and some students liked it better than video calls, but it allowed for one platform for either video or chat conversations. Thanks. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, so question, would you recommend an option for group chat office hours, or is it best to keep them individual? It depends on, what your goal is for the office hours. I think that a group chat might be useful, if you want to discuss, course concepts or, that lesson for that week. I would say maybe give both options. You might want to do also individual office hours for students who need specific help. That's not really going to apply to anybody else, or they want to talk about a grade on something or a specific assignment and how they could improve. So, I think group chat office hours could definitely work for helping to clarify, concepts. Um, but you still want to be able to give them the option to have individual office hours as well so that they can talk to you one-on-one. Great question. You're welcome. Anyone else have a question? Alicia, yes, a recording of the presentation will be available. I am recording the presentation and I will upload it to our YouTube to get the closed captioning started. So you should be able to see it on the Flexible Teaching website within the next few days. You're welcome. Well, if nobody else has any other questions, I'll just thank you for joining me today again to discuss options for holding virtual office hours. If you're affiliated with NIU, which I think everybody here is, and need help with any aspect of your teaching, just feel free to contact the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning anytime. We'd be happy to help. And have a great day. I'll stick around a little bit after, just in case anybody has some last minute questions, but have a great rest of your week.